Welcome to Let's Talk Criterion, your regular magazine for Criterion movies, where we exclusively review and preview new and forthcoming releases in the collection. In this edition, we look at Tim Burton's debut feature, Pee-Wee's Big Adventure, coming to the collection in 4K UHD. Much speculation had taken place about which Tim Burton film would be making its inaugural appearance in the Criterion collection, with the favourite being Ed Wood. But there was quite a reaction when Criterion announced that it was Pee-Wee's Big Adventure, coming to 4K UHD in December, which would be Tim Burton's first entry into the collection. Now, Tim Burton is a filmmaker with a unique creative vision, and to say he has fashioned cinema through the years is an accurate statement, with both his full-length and his animated features adding to the visual splendour that audiences have enjoyed over the years. Now, his vision and take specifically with comedy came with Beetlejuice in 1988 and his twisted Gotham in his Batman from 1989. And Batman Returns from 1992, which was totally unique. And his choices ever since have only proved that when you see his films, you know exactly who the director is, right up to his version of Stephen Sondheim's musical Sweeney Todd, The Demon Barber of Fleet Street in 2007, and his collaboration in Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas, the animated feature from 1993, and his own directed animated feature, Corpse Bride, from 2005. Yes, of course, he did have some fails, mainly Planet of the Apes in 2001, but his successes have far outstripped his failures, counting Ed Wood from 1994 with an Oscar-winning performance from Martin Landau as Bela Lugosi, and most recently, of course, the sequel to his 1988 original Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice. Oh, I've said it 3 times. His early influences were his childhood heroes, such as Dr. Seuss and Roald Dahl, and Universal horror movies. They fueled his passion to make films like Sleepy Hollow. He worked as an animator, storyboard artist, and graphic designer and art director at Disney, contributing to favourites like The Fox and the Hound, Tron and The Black Cauldron. Whilst at Disney, he made his first short film in 1982, Vincent, a film about a young boy who fantasises his hero as Vincent Price. His next short was Frankenweenie in 1984, and this, of course, was remade by him into a full-length animated feature in 2012. Now, it was the actor Paul Reubens who gave Burton his main opportunity and chose him to direct the cinematic spin-off of his popular character Pee-Wee Herman, stating that he was sold on Burton's visual style after watching Frankenweenie, and the rest, as they say, is history. Pee-Wee Herman is a comedy character created by comedian Paul Reubens, made popular through the 1980s stage performances, whose performances, of course, had more adult content for those audiences, but this was the toned-down film version. Pee-Wee Herman's signature grey Glen plaid suit was originally a custom-made suit that Reubens had borrowed from the Groundlings director Gary Austin. The small red bow tie was given to him by an acquaintance. Pee-wee's later chickened clothing and persona were largely lifted from manic 1950s children's TV host Pinky Lee. Also incorporated into the look was short black hair, pale skin, and red rouge and red lipstick. Now, the inspiration for the name came from a Pee-wee brand miniature harmonica and the surname of an energetic boy Reubens knew during his youth. Pee-Wee's Big Adventure celebrates its 40th anniversary this year, and Hartman, Reubens and Michael Varhol co-wrote the script for Pee-Wee's Big Adventure, basing the story loosely on Vittorio De Sica's The Bicycle Thief. It was released August 9th, 1985, and while receiving mixed reviews at the time, it performed well at the box office and became a cult hit. Reubens was the originator of the Pee-wee dance in the movie, and he performed it publicly many times prior to making the film. Now, if you're unfamiliar with Pee-Wee Herman, he's essentially a big-hearted but emotionally stunted man-child, dressed in a suit. Pee-wee is both charmingly innocent in nature and yet diabolically aggressive when he doesn't get his own way. In other words, Pee-wee Herman is the Peter Pan syndrome personified, or, as Ralph Emerson described the mercurial child, a curly, dimpled lunatic. Now, although the Pee-wee Herman persona was originally aimed at adult audiences, the character increasingly became popular with children over the years, eventually starring in an award-winning Saturday morning television series, Pee-wee's Playhouse. Now, Pee-wee Herman's Big Adventure retains the character's spiky edges, and in doing so, acknowledges the difficulties of the adult world at the same time that it reveals Pee-wee's essential goodness, with some lapses in his childish nature. To one extent or another, all of Tim Burton's films involve quirky misfits or oddballs, and perhaps there's no protagonist in the canon more quirky, or more oddball indeed, than Pee-wee Herman. He's desperately afraid of girls, holds down no job, and focuses all of his obsessive love upon a single perfect object or toy, and that is his bicycle. Pee-wee thrives in a bubble of self-indulgent childhood and play, and when he looks outside that bubble, gazes enviously at those who may appear cooler than he does. Now, in the course of the film, he meets hostility from the real adult world, and that comes in the form of an escaped criminal, a biker gang, the jealous boyfriend of an acquaintance, and not least of all, Francis Buxton, played in the film by Mark Holton. Now, Francis is a rich, indulged man-child, a kind of dark reflection of Pee-wee himself. In all cases except for Francis, who is truly incorrigible and thus irredeemable, Pee-wee works his child magic upon his enemies, transforming them into his friends and supporters. Now, some of Pee-wee's many encounters on his sojourns through the film are fun, like for instance Dottie at the bike shop, played in the film by Elizabeth Daly, where he claims he's a loner, like something out of an old western, and he leaves the shop laughing off his encounter, only to discover to his horror that his precious bike's been stolen. And then, of course, there's Large Marge. She's a truck driver who tells Pee-wee a terrifying story about a car accident, which turns out to be her own fatal accident from 10 years prior. The scene's known for its sudden shift from a light-hearted road trip to a shocking, almost horror-like Beetlejuice moment. He gets sidelined to a strange basement after listening to a clairvoyant, and in contrast, the comical breakfast scene, of course, is superb, as various contraptions cook Pee-wee's breakfast, which he then proceeds to talk to and shower with cereal before he consumes it. Now, I won't reveal any more of these oddball encounters that he has through the film, for fear of spoiling the fun for you. So what audience do get here, of course, is basically a very funny commentary on childhood, or perhaps upon society's view of children. What makes this film so unrelentingly funny is that Pee-wee is most definitely not all sunshine and roses, and certainly neither are the kids in real life. Like any child, Pee-wee can be abundantly vindictive, capricious, out of control, and even egomaniacal. The film often attains the pinnacle of silliness when Pee-wee, in pursuit of his perfect bike, must call upon his juvenile id to attain this goal. Now, it's been widely suggested by critics that Pee-wee Herman is an acquired taste, or that one's mileage for the character may vary. And to some extent, Pee-wee's Big Adventure thrives even beyond one's appreciation or approval for the central character because of the wild visual flights of fantasy evident here. That's mainly thanks to Tim Burton. Even if Pee-wee fails to impress as a character or a comedic concept, his dazzling fantasy world of Rube Goldberg-esque conventions and colourful, strange misfits proves eminently memorable. Now, with Pee-wee Herman's Big Adventure, you get just not Pee-wee himself to enjoy, but access to Pee-wee's world as well. And in the final analysis, it's a pretty wild and imaginative place to visit. Now, specifically, Burton executes a number of clever visual jokes that reveal the essence of the unusual lead character and his worldview. In other words, Burton finds a way to express with his camera the inner workings of Pee-wee's childish but ultimately admirable psyche. And to some degree, this practice makes the inscrutable juvenile Pee-wee more sympathetic and heroic to the viewer. Now, of course, this character is, as already alluded to, rather chalk and cheese. If you like him or you detest him. Now, if it's the latter, then this movie's not for you. Now, many will have seen this film during their childhood and, of course, will have fond memories of this enduring character. Now, Pee-wee's bike features in the movie, and there were 14 vintage-style Schwinn DX bikes made, dating from 1946 to 1953. They were commissioned and built for the film, customised to the specifications of Rubens himself. Burton and the production designer David Snyder, rigged with special effects designed by prop master Stephen Levine. Music, of course, well, that was rather special in the film, being scored by a man who was to become Tim Burton's long-time collaborator, and that is Danny Elfman. Again, whose music, when heard, just says this is from a Tim Burton film. He was lead singer of Oingo Bongo, and before this, his only prior scoring experience had been for his brother Richard's cult film Forbidden Zone in 1982. In fact, he had to be coaxed into doing the score for this. Reviewing the film for its 2000 DVD release, Stephanie Zacharek of Salon.com explained, everything about Pee-wee's Big Adventure, from its toy box colours to its superb, hyper-animated Danny Elfman score, to the butch-waxed hairdo and wooden puppet walk of its star and mastermind, is pure pleasure. And I think, for me, she summed the film up pretty well. Pee-wee's Big Adventure comes to the Criterion Collection as a 4K UHD with Dolby Vision HDR on 2 discs, a 4K UHD with the film, and a second Blu-ray with the film and these special features. New 4K digital restoration supervised and approved by director Tim Burton with 2.0 surround DTS HD master audio soundtrack. Alternate 5.1 surround DTS HD master audio soundtrack. Audio commentary by Burton and actor co-writer Paul Rubens. Audio commentary by composer Danny Elfman over a music-only soundtrack to the film. That's a nice touch. New interview with Burton and actor-filmmaker Richard Ayoade. New interviews with producer Richard Abramson, production designer David L. Schneider, co-writer Michael Varhol, and editor Billy Weber. It's conducted by the critic Mark Olson. Hollywood's Master Storytellers interview with Rubens from 2005. An excerpt from the 40th anniversary screening of the film, and that's presented by Nostalgic Nebula and hosted by the comedian Dana Gould. Deleted scenes and trailer. And we have a written essay, and that's by podcast host and culture critic Jesse Thorne. And the cover art is by Luigi Olivadotti. Now, this cover has caused a strong reaction, mainly of distaste, but looking at it more closely, I think it embodies the childish qualities on display with this character. The film has a running time of 91 minutes. It comes in a 1:8:5:1 aspect ratio, and it releases in the collection in the US on Tuesday the 16th of December and in the UK on Monday the 22nd of December as Spine 1293. I think it'll make a lovely Christmas present for someone. There's also an excellent documentary on Paul Rubens, Pee-wee as himself. That's on HBO Max for subscribers, and I include a link in my comments below to the trailer. So, I've just one more release now to go in the month of December, and in fact for 2025, and that's the brilliant concert film from David Byrne, American Utopia, a Spike Lee joint. That'll be coming to the collection very soon on 4K UHD. So until then, and that edition from me, as always, it's goodbye, and above all, good Criterion viewing.